Hi everybody, today we're making baked potatoes with fillings, and in our class today I made a beautiful baked potato with some bacon, mushrooms, I've got some yogurt here, you can use sour cream, I've got some shallots here as well, you can use roasted chicken, all sorts of things, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, and you're going to love it. So let's get into it.
Fabulous. All right, baked potatoes with fillings. So the prep time says 5 minutes. So that's not a lot of time. But the cook time, if you do it the traditional way, it's probably not that long, but it's probably at least an hour. So probably an hour and 10 minutes altogether. And depending on how many potatoes you do, I don't know why we've got 5 there when there's 4 potatoes. However many potatoes you cook, that's how many it serves. Great. Have to fix that. All right, our ingredients. You are going to need some olive oil. You'll need some baking potatoes. Got my baking potatoes there. You'll need some sour cream, or I'm using yogurt because that's what we've got at our house. And then you'll need your fillings. So I've got some grated cheese. I've got some mushrooms. There's some bacon. We've got some shallots here. Great. The thing with baked potatoes is you can do any number of fillings, and it's a great way to use up some leftovers in your fridge. Fantastic. Now, equipment. You'll need measuring cups. Yep, measuring cups and spoons. You'll need a pastry brush. You'll need some alfoil. You'll need a knife. Got my knife. You'll need a bowl, a chopping board. I've got a baking tray. Let me move that. I've got a baking tray with some baking paper, and you'll need a clean, dry tea towel. Fabulous. I'm just going to put the chat up in case anyone wants to chat to me. Great. Fantastic. Wonderful. All right. Now, any questions to begin with? Great. All right. Fantastic. So the first thing we're going to do is, let me tell you before we start the first thing, is there are 2 ways we can cook our potatoes. We can cook them in the microwave. So if you want to cook them in the microwave, they will cook a whole lot faster. So they probably cook in about 10 minutes. The other option is you can put them into the oven and they will take over an hour to cook. Or if you want to be a bit sneaky, you can do 2 methods. So you can start your potato in the microwave and then finish it in the oven or under the grill. Anyone confused? All right. So if you want to do it fast, we can do it in the microwave and then we can finish it off under the grill or popping it into the oven for 10 minutes. All right. So if you're going to put them in the oven, I want you to turn your oven onto 220 degrees. 220 degrees. Fabulous. So I did 2 ways and I'm going to show you the difference. I'm just going to, I've got my little microwave ones here. All right, so if you can see in my overhead camera, I baked my potatoes. These ones are in the microwave and they took about 10 minutes altogether. If you can see the size of it sitting in my hand, it's not ridiculously big. It's kind of like a small to medium sized potato. And the other ones, these ones here, oh, they look good. I started them in the microwave, so I cooked them till they were for about 8 minutes, and then I put them into the oven. And so what they've got now is a nice crispy outside, so that they're really beautiful and crisp on the outside, but I wanted them done quicker rather than keeping them in the oven for all of that time. So I don't know whether you can see the difference, but yeah, these ones probably look a bit more delicious because they've been put into the oven to get a nice crispy outer shell. So potatoes. I've got 4 potatoes here. The first thing we're going to do is wash our potatoes. So I've got just the dirty ones, what do you call them, brushed. They've been brushed of the dirt, but they haven't been cleaned properly or scrubbed. So I'm going to take about 30 seconds to a minute to wash my potatoes. So what we need to do is we need to create some holes so that the steam and the heat can get into as far into our potatoes as possible, and that will enable them to cook quicker. So there's 2 ways you can do that. You can either just use a metal fork, and I'm going to put my metal fork in and go as far in that I can. So I'm holding my potato with one hand and putting my metal fork in. And I'm going to do this about 10 times throughout my potato. Now, if you haven't got a metal fork, well, everyone's got a metal fork, but the other way is you can use a knife. You need to be careful, like that you can control the knife and the blade is pointing away from you. So you wouldn't sort of put the blade where it's facing you, but I'm going to do the fork because I think that's a better option. So about 10 big holes throughout your potato. That's it. Just watching your hands, that your hands are spread far enough wide that you're not going to accidentally put the prongs through your fingers instead of the potato. Great, Matteo. Fantastic. Great. Excellent. That was good timing, Julia. Great. Okay. So I'm going to do I'm going to show you 2 different ways. So the first, I'm going to do 2 potatoes and I'm going to put them in the oven. And the other 2 potatoes, I'm just going to put into the microwave. So with the microwave, you want to get a nice microwavable dish, whether it's a baking dish, whether it's a glass dish, and you'll need some water, about half a cup of water. You'll need half a cup of water if you're going to put them into the microwave. And then you'll need something to cover your bowl. So I've got this little guy here because I don't like to use cling wrap, but you can use cling wrap. So I'm just going to put my thing over. You could use a dinner plate if you wanted to. So if you're going to microwave it, then you can put it into the microwave for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Okay, so for those that are putting theirs into the oven, what we need to do first and foremost is we need to get some alfoil. I know I've got a bit of background noise today with the microwave and the oven. So I've got my potato. Oops, daisy, and then I've got a little bit of olive oil into a jar, into a little bowl. And I'm going to paint the outside of my potato with olive oil. So this is if you're going to put it into the oven. And then I'm just going to wrap it up. And you could do the same thing if you've got a fire, like an outdoor fire pit. And you could cook your potatoes over the fire pit. So I am just painting the outside of my potatoes.
Do you put the potatoes on the shiniest side or the not as shiny?
The non-shiny side. Good question. Good question, Emma. The non-shiny side. And then once you've got your potatoes all wrapped up, then you can put them into the oven. Pop them in the oven. Great. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what we do with our potato once they're nice and cooked. So the recipe says when you put them in the oven, you bake them for 20 minutes. So can someone put their timer on for 20 minutes? Pop your timer on for 20 minutes. Let me just do that on my phone. So we can have all sorts of fillings. Like if you've got some leftover salsa in the fridge, you can put some salsa on. You can melt some cheese in there if you want to. So I'm just going to show you what I do. I've got my microwave and my non-microwave. So I've got my potato and I'm going to very, very carefully. You could do it with a spoon if it was a little bit safer for you. And I'm going to make like a little opening in the top. And I pull out my potato. And then I want to scoop out about half of the potato. Scoop out about half of the potato, and we're going to put that into a bowl. We don't want to go all the way to the bottom, because if you go all the way to the bottom, you're going to, you might break the bottom. And we don't want to break the bottom yet. And the little piece that I took out, I'm just going to peel my skin off and put that in there. I'm going to do this with my other ones. So I take off the skin. You have to be careful if you take them out of the microwave or the oven, because they will be really, really hot, and you might need to use a tea towel in order to do that. So I've got I took mine out a little while ago, so I'm taking this, just a whole lot of the potato flesh out, and I'm popping that in a bowl. Remember, not too much. And I've got my, oh wow, my potatoes from the oven, and they are so yummy. They're a bit hot. So I've popped my potato just on the board there, and I've opened it up, and I'm scooping out that beautiful potato. Oh, and it's soft and it's really beautiful, but it is quite hot. That is my potato. I only had 2 potatoes on, so my microwave has gone. So I've got 4 beautiful potatoes there. Now, if I want to, I could actually put those back into the oven to make them a little bit more crispy if I wanted to. Great. So now I've got my potato here. I'm going to get the yucky, not yucky, that's not right. You should always speak nicely about food, shouldn't you? I'm going against my own rule. Great. So I've got my potato there, and I'm going to put it just at the side. All right. Now, if anyone else wants to cut up their bacon, if you're using bacon, I'm going to start cutting up my bacon now and some mushrooms, because I'm going to have mushrooms and some bacon. Has anyone's microwave gone off yet? Not. Mine has. So I'm just slicing up my bacon. You could use ham, you could use some salami, you could use some barbecue chicken. Just being really careful of my hands. And I'm slicing it into small pieces, because nobody wants to get a really long piece like that. Oh, you can't see. A long piece like that. We want them to be really short. All right, so I've cut up my bacon. So what are you putting in your fillings? I'm just cutting up some mushrooms here as well. And remember, you want your pieces to be nice and small. Whatever you cut up has to be able to, we're going to combine, oh my goodness me, we're going to combine it with our mashed potato, and then you want to be able to fork it. We don't want to have to use a knife to cut up our fillings. We just want to be able to either spoon it or fork it into our mouth. So remember, we always are thinking about how are we going to eat what I'm cooking. Great. Oh, excellent. So Julia, you've microwaved the beginning, and then you're going to cover them with olive oil and pop them in the oven. Great. I love it. That's going to be fabulous. Fantastic. So just so you can see what I've done, I've got some bacon and I've just sliced that up, and then I'm using mushrooms. So I'm just slicing up some mushrooms that I'm going to cook in a minute as well. Right. Again, you can use, Sophie, you said you were going to use some baked beans. Great, love that. I've got 1 shallot, and I think that's all I'm going to need. Because one of the ways that you can serve this is have the potatoes, that everyone gets a potato each, and you get a number of different kinds of fillings, and everyone can make their own fillings. So that's one way that you can do it, almost like a potato bar. As in, like, you know, you have like nacho, like a nacho or taco bar, you can have a potato bar instead. So gotcha, super organised. I love it. All right, I'm going to put my other 2 potatoes into the oven. We got my tea towel. Happen. All right, once you've got, I've got my shallots, as you can see, my mushrooms and my bacon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cooking my bacon first. I'm going to get that nice and crispy, and then I'm going to put some of the mushrooms and I'm going to put the shallots in. Now, you don't have, you can cook them all separately if you're going to do it like the potato bar. So you can do it separately or you can do it together. It depends whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to start doing that. If you just give me a minute, I'm going to set up my little stove and I'll show you that we're going to start cooking my bacon up. All right, I've got a little bit more olive oil left over. So I'm going to just use that to get a little bit of fat on the bottom. And the first thing that I'm going to do is cut up cook up my bacon. So I've got my bacon over a medium heat. And I want it to go crispy. So I'm just cooking my bacon over a medium heat because I want it to get nice and crispy. Now I'm going to add my mushrooms, but if you want to serve it individually, you'll cook your bacon, then put that into a fresh container, and then you'll cook the mushrooms, put that into a separate container, and then do your shallots. I'm going to cook them all together. My bacon's getting beautiful and crispy. And I'm going to add half of my shallots. I'm not going to add all of the shallots because I want them to the top of my potatoes because that's going to be a really nice garnish or a nice decoration. And I've got some cheese out as well. So depending if you're going to grate your cheese or if you've already got grated cheese. All right. All right. All right. I've got my bacon and my mushrooms and a little bit of my shallots. There's our 20 minutes. All right, so 20 minutes. We're now going to turn the oven down to 100. Actually, I turn it down to 170 degrees. 170 degrees. And then I've got my bacon and my mushrooms, and I've added it to the potato that I took out of my potatoes. So I've got my 4 little potato guys here. And I'm just going to toss it together. We don't want to mash it. We want to mash any of the big chunky bits, but then we're just tossing them nicely together. And then we need some beautiful salt and pepper. So I'm going to put about half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of salt, so if you want to write that down, and 1/4 teaspoon of cracked pepper. You can put some mustard in there as well if you really want to play around with some flavours. Excellent. And so now you can see that I've got a nice lot of fill. Actually, I've got a lot of filling now. Now, as I said before, you can leave them separate. So if you want to have your bacon and your mushroom separate, you can do that. I've just done it so that I've popped it all in together, depending on what your family likes. Great. So if you want to, you can put your potatoes in the oven for another, like once you've emptied them, you can put them back into the oven for another 10 minutes to warm up. This is what I'm going to do. Oops. So I've got my potato skins here, and I'm going to fill them with my potato, pushing all the way into the corners. Now, I know that some people like to save the lid of the potato, like the bit that you took out, and they like to serve their potato with the lid. So you can do that. I'm simply refilling mine. And so, and I want it to look really generous. So I want my potato or my filling to come up over the top. All right. Oh, so yummy. And then I'm going to pop some cheese on top. Got some cheese. My cheese has gone all over everywhere, but that's okay. You could put the cheese into the filling if you wanted to do that. I'm going to put mine on top because I want mine to get a little bit melted and crispy. Great. And then I'm going to pop that into the oven. I should have done this beforehand. Fantastic. So there are my potatoes now. I'm going to pop them into the oven for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I've left it at 170. So all I need to do is warm them through because they've kind of got to room temperature now. Warm them through and melt the cheese. So about 10 minutes at 170 degrees. Excellent. All right, and that is it. And I've got quite a bit of filling left over, but it depends how you want to do it. You can serve your potato with the individual bacon and mushrooms and baked beans and whatever you do, and cheese, or you can do what I do, put the cheese on top and melt it, but you don't have to do that at all. Remember, you can also serve it with some natural yogurt or some beautiful sour cream. Fabulous. All right, so the next thing, we've got the 20-minute timer on. What I want to do is when that 25-minute timer goes, you'll probably need help to do this because it'll be really hot, but I want you to use a skewer or a knife to check to see how your potatoes are cooking. So if they feel soft but a little bit, you can still feel they've got a little bit of resistance, keep them into the oven for a little bit longer. Beautiful. And that is it.